Hello, welcome to Science and Craft Storytime. This month's version is Cats Are a Liquid, and we'll talk about liquids and solids and play with some Oobleck and make a fun cat. Let's have fun together. Our story this month is Cats Are a Liquid by Rebecca Donnelly, illustrated by Misa Saburi. Cats fill, cats spill, cats flow down hill. Cats tip, cats drip, cats grip, snip, and rip. Cats are a liquid, except when they're not. Cats slop and plop. Cats drizzle and slosh and flop. Cats rain, cats drain. Cats train, aim, and maim. Cats are a liquid, except when they're not. They're like puddles, but that one's standing up. Cat spout, cat drought, cat flash flood, drench. They do not look happy. Sprout, a cat's not a liquid, except when it is. Roll, crest, ripple, and fizz. Those are all things liquids do. Cats are weather, thunder, zap. Static electricity. Cats first snow. Blanket, nap. Cats are clouds in the atmosphere, evaporate, and then precipitate. They go up, and then they go down. Disappear. Cats are very good at that, aren't they? Are cats a liquid? Matter is the stuff all around you. Your clothes, your food, and your cat are all made of matter. There are many states of matter. The most common are solid, liquid, and gas. You can see examples of all three in everyday life. You can even see matter change from one state to another. Think about the water that comes out of your kitchen faucet. That's a liquid. If you put the water into an ice cube tray and freeze it, soon you'll have ice, a solid. If you melt the ice, you're back to liquid water. Put the water in a pot and boil it on the stove with a grown-up, and the steam you see is gas, but they're all the same chemical, H2O. Does a cat really act like a liquid? It's a science joke based on the way that cats seem to fill up any container they squeeze themselves into. If you pour water into a tall, thin glass, it takes that shape. If you pour it into a wide bowl, it takes the shape of the bowl. Solids behave differently. If you put a solid like an ice cube into a cup or a bowl, it holds its own shape, unless it melts, of course. A quick look at the internet will show you that cats can fit themselves into bowls, cups, pans, boxes, and many other containers, and that their bodies seem to fill the container in the same way a liquid does. That is, unless you're trying to put them into the bathtub and then they are a solid, rigid, extremely hard to handle. Learn more about states of matter at the Simple Science of Matter book, or Changing Matter in My Makerspace, another book. And then for an activity, we're going to make Oobleck. And they say, there's really something that can act like a solid or a liquid without going through a phase change like melting or boiling. Oobleck. The name comes from the Dr. Seuss book, Bartholomew and the Oobleck. I have a hard time saying that. But it is a real substance we can make at home out of water and cornstarch. And we're gonna do that. And when we're done, don't pour your Oobleck down the drain. Like a cat, it can act like a solid at the wrong time, and you don't want solid cornstarch clogging your pipes. Scrape it into the trash, and then rinse your bowl. And then you can look up Oobleck at Scientific American to learn more. And that's the end. Cats plop, slop, drizzle, slosh, flop. The end. For Oobleck from home, you need some kind of bowl. Something more like a pie plate would be even easier to use for the experiments later, but this is what I've got. And a spoon. You need some water. And from your kit, you need your cornstarch. And we're going to put all of the cornstarch into our bowl. Don't shake it too hard because it'll poof back up into your face. Won't hurt you, but it is rather unpleasant. Then we're gonna fill the plastic cup with water. We're probably not going to use all of the water, but this is a good way to not get too much right off the start. So we're going to use about half that water and pour it into your bowl and mix it into your cornstarch. Actually, didn't even get a half there, did I? And what we're doing is creating a suspension where the particles of the cornstarch, which if you feel it are very smooth and flat, will be floating in the water. And the more evenly they float, the more it seems like they're a solid when we're done. So we've taken a solid, the cornstarch powder, and a liquid, the water, and we're combining them together into a mixture or a suspension, as I said. You might need to mix with your fingers. Cornstarch can get very cement-like once it's exposed to water. All right, so what we are looking for a texture before we add any more water, we want to make sure all the water has been soaked up, is something that when we hold it, it stays solid, but when we let it sit for a moment, it turns liquid and runs back through our fingers. So mine is still too crumbly, so I'm going to add a little more water and then work that in. You can try using your spoon if you don't like the texture, but it gets really hard to get it mixed well. One of my favorite things about playing with cornstarch is it's easy to clean up. If it gets on something, just let it dry, and then you should be able to brush it off once it's dried. Or vacuum it up if it's the floor that it's on. All right, we're getting there. See, when I pick it up, it looks like a solid, but then when I let it sit, it starts slooping back through my finger like a liquid. So I'm gonna stop adding any more water and just get all of my cornstarch mixed in. And we call this a non-Newtonian substance because it's both a solid and a liquid. A solid, if I roll it in a ball, it holds its shape, but as soon as I stop pressing on it, it just puddles right back like a liquid into the dish. So you can pound on it and it feels like you're hitting a solid object, but then when you touch it gently with your finger slides through it. Something else that's non-Newtonian is quicksand. Quicksand looks like hard sand, and when you pound on it, it seems very solid. But if you stand still on it, you start to sink in, just like our oobleck. All right, so you can play with that for a little while. You can add food coloring if you want it to be colored. Just be sure to only add a teeny tiny amount so you don't disrupt the balance. Because what happens is the reason it will be a solid when we press on it is that all the particles of cornstarch come together and make a rigid surface. But then when we stop pressing on it, they relax and separate again, and so it becomes more fluid-like. Kinda cool. Have fun with that. Now we'll make a cat craft. From home, you're going to need a pair of scissors and either a glue stick or liquid glue. In your kit, you've got some pink paper, some eye stickers. In the bottom of your bag, you have some little pink dots of paper, a white colored pencil, a template, and some black paper. So the first thing we're going to do is take our template and we're going to cut out the shapes on our template, cutting only on the solid lines. So cut right down the solid lines, not the dashed, just the solid lines. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use these templates to trace. But afterwards, you can make a cat out of the templates too, if you'd like. Or you can save them to make more cats with paper you might have at home. So let's get our big rectangles cut out. This is a lot of cutting. I hope your hands are feeling strong today. Okay, now on these guys, you'll see there's a solid line in the middle. We're gonna cut out the rectangle, and then we're gonna cut out the part that has the bump on the end. So we're gonna cut right across that line there. So we actually have enough here to make 2 cat templates. So I'm not going to cut out the other long piece here. Now we're going to cut out all these little shapes. So we need 1 heart. And it's easier to do the curves if you turn the paper, not your scissors. Those of you who have done crafts with me before are tired of hearing that probably, right? But it's true, if you turn the paper, you get a smoother curve. And then we need 2 big leaf shapes and 2 little leaf shapes. So I'm gonna cut around those, and then I'm gonna set this piece aside because I don't need it right now. We have extras just in case we accidentally cut something where we didn't mean to cut, because that happens sometimes when you're cutting things out, doesn't it? All right. So after you've used your templates to trace, if you want to use markers or crayons, you could decorate this cat to be any color kitty cat you like. And now the big leaf shapes. And again, turning my paper, not my scissors, to get the smoothest curves. Following right along a solid line. And now we have our template cut out. So now that the template's cut out, we can set aside one of the big rectangles. We aren't going to need it either. So we have our big rectangle, our heart shape, our little rectangle with the 1 rounded end, 2 big leaves and 2 little leaves. So you're going to take your colored pencil and your black paper, and the first thing we want to do is trace our rectangle on our black paper. And the white pencil should show up on the black paper. So use your hand to hold the paper still. It's a little bit tricky. Sometimes you have to move your hand as you go. You can save cutting one edge if you line your paper right up along the edge. But I did this so you could see the rectangle traced. Then we're going to trace the heart shape. That's my eraser side. I don't want that. All right, let's set that aside. And then the big leaves. One big leaf. Ooh, sometimes colored pencils make sounds like chalk on a chalkboard. Gives me the chillies. And the other big leaf. Can you guess what the big leaves are going to be? All right, and then we want the small rectangle with the rounded tip. And last but not least, the small rectangle. So those are all the parts that we're going to make out of the black paper. On the pink paper, you're going to trace the 2 small leaf shapes, and hopefully you can see the white pencil on the pink paper. If you can't, if it's hard to follow that line, you could trace them with a regular pencil or something like that too. All right, so now we've got our little leaves traced on the pink paper. Now we need to cut all of these things out with our scissors. All right, so we've got two little pink leaves. And now the black things. Be sure to round the end of the little rectangle with the rounded end. And one leaf. And then it's easier to go across for me anyway. And two leaves in black. And last but not least, a heart shape. All right, so set aside the rest of your paper for another use later. All right, so remember how on our tracing template there was that dotted line in the center? You can kind of line the two up together and just make a little marks or two at that point. Now you're going to take your end and fold it into that point, like that. Turn it around and do the same thing on that side. And now we need our glue stick. You're gonna take your glue stick and you're gonna put it all over one of those flaps that you just made. And now you're gonna pull the other flap and put it on top of that one and glue it together. And now you've got sort of like a gumdrop bump shape. And this is our cat's body. So that's ready to go. Our next step is to make the kitty's face. So these are going to be his cheeks. His nose is going to go right here in the middle. So we can take one of our pink dots and get some glue on it and put it right where the kitty's nose should be. And you can draw some whiskers coming from the nose. And now you have eye stickers, or you could draw your own eyes if you want. Choose your kitty's eyes. I think I'll go with these funny eyes. And put them on. So now your kitty has a face. But what else does your kitty need? Your kitty needs ears, right? Well, the leaves, as you may have guessed, are his ears. So the smaller leaf is going to get glued sort of towards the bottom of the bigger black leaf. so that when you look at it, you have more black sticking up on one corner. You want to line up the points of the leaves. So cover your pink leaf with glue and stick it down so the points are together. Like that. And then do the same thing with the other ear. So now we have 2 ears. We have to put it on the kitty's head. So we want to line it up so it sticks out kind of like that. And you can make them go out more to the side. You can make them more right at the top, or wherever you like your kitty's ears to look. But you only want to put glue on a little bit of the ear so that you don't get glue on the part that's not going to be hiding behind the head. And stick it down to the back of the head, not the part with the face. You want them to be behind. All right, so now we have a kitty face. But we have to attach that to the body. Remember, we had that long, skinny rectangle. Gonna fold it in little accordion folds, back and forth, back and forth. And this is going to be our kitty's neck, and it's gonna make him like a bobblehead. So you can keep more if you want his head to be really wiggly, or less folds if you want his head to be less wiggly. And then when you have as many folds as you want, you can just trim the extra off. Put a little glue on one end. And stick that to one side of the body gumdrop, like that. And then put a little glue on the other end. And stick it to the back of the kitty's head. Whew. Maybe I did too many folds because my kitty's head is floppy. So I'm gonna pull my kitty's head off gently. It hasn't dried yet. And cut a couple of folds off. Boop. And then you want to give your kitty a tail. So you're going to take the piece that has the rounded end and just kind of run it between your finger and your thumb a couple of times to give it a little bit of a curl. And then put a little glue right at the end. And put that on the other side of your kitty. You know what I think happened? I think I'm going to turn the neck around. Thinking it needs to go the other way, so my kitty's head will stay up more. You may have to experiment a little with it. Make it longer, make it shorter, until you like the kitty that you end up with. Miyoku. I hope you had fun with that craft. Have a great time, and remember, cats are a liquid, or a solid, or both. Have a great day.